Hey guys, tonight we journey somewhere dark, cold, and candlelit, a place where the air is thick with incense and the weight of expectation. You're standing at the threshold of your wedding chamber, draped in heavy linen and lace hands trembling slightly as the door creaks shut behind you. The hum of voices outside fades, but not completely. They're still there, waiting, listening. The flicker of the single tallow candle casts long, eerie shadows on the rough stone walls. This, you realize, is the night that has been planned for you since the day you were born. And you probably won't survive this, at least not in the way you hoped. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and what time it is where you are. I always love seeing where my listeners are tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You feel the cold seeping through the stone floor, through the soles of your thin slippers. Your gown is stifling layers of fabric meant to hide and bind you, now feel more like chains. Your new husband stands across the room, more stranger than spouse, silent, as he undoes the ties of his cloak. His face is unreadable in the dim light. His expression guarded, or maybe he's just as nervous as you. Historians still argue whether most grooms felt as much pressure and anxiety as their brides on this night. You glance at the bed. Massive carved wood creaking already as you sit upon its edge. The sheets are coarse, scratchy against your skin, and the smell beeswax old straw sweat from the day's feast. It's not the romantic setting you imagined as a child, back when you still dreamed of love. Outside you hear muffled laughter. They're waiting, maybe for a shout of triumph, maybe for the telltale sounds of the deed. You try to steady your breathing. Your mother's words echo in your head. Endure. Obey. Pray. Fun fringe tidbit: in some regions, it was common for guests to actually escort the newlyweds to bed, offering noisy encouragement that today would get you arrested. Your husband approaches, sits beside you. The bed shifts under his weight. He smells of wine and roasted meat, of the smoke from the great hall's hearth. His hand finds yours, rough, warm, uncertain. For a moment, there's quiet understanding in that touch. But then duty reasserts itself. This is not about tenderness. This is about sealing an alliance, fulfilling an obligation, producing heirs. The candle flickers, casting strange shapes on the walls, like ghostly witnesses to this night. You wonder if they'll leave the sheet outside the door at dawn, the proof they crave, or if your failure will bring shame down on both your families. Historians still argue whether the bridal sheet tradition was as widespread and rigid as legend claims, or if it's become exaggerated in our imaginations over the centuries. The night stretches long, heavy with the weight of what's expected and what's feared. The veil has lifted, and what lies beneath is more daunting than any nightmare. You sit there, heart racing, as the shadows on the walls seem to press closer. But even as fear clutches at you, your mind drifts back to the choices that led to this night. Choices, of course, that weren't yours, because in this world, love rarely had anything to do with marriage. Your match was made long before you reached the age of consent by modern standards. Families met, terms were discussed, dowries negotiated, lands promised. You were more commodity than participant. Historians still argue whether medieval noblewomen ever had meaningful influence over these arrangements. or if even the most powerful found themselves swept along by duty and strategy. You remember standing in the hall as your father spoke of alliances of strengthening the bloodline, of honor and legacy. No mention of happiness. No talk of kindness. Just contracts sealed with handshakes, coins, and eventually your body. Fun fringe tidbit. In some parts of Europe, marriage contracts were so detailed, they listed not only land and money, but the exact number of garments, livestock, and even spoons that would change hands. Imagine your worth being tallied like a market inventory. You glance at your husband again. His profile is stark in the candlelight, noble nose, strong jaw, the face of a man raised on the same cold expectations. Did he hope for love, a gentle bride? Or is he as resigned as you are, performing a role in a play neither of you wrote? The air between you is thick with unspoken questions. Do you dare speak? Do you dare hope for gentleness? Or do you simply brace yourself as your mother's voice whispers again in your mind, obey, pray? Outside, the laughter has died down, replaced by the soft sounds of a hall gone to sleep. But sleep will not find you tonight. The marriage knot of love is done. The wedding night waits and dread deepens. The chamber is stifling now, though the night air beyond the small window is cool. Your breath comes shallow as you realize you're not alone, not truly. Just beyond that heavy wooden door, the household waits, listening, judging. You catch faint murmurs, the creak of floorboards, someone's suppressed chuckle. The reality hits hard. Your most private moment is in truth a public spectacle. Historians still argue whether the practice of witnessing or verifying consummation was universal across medieval Europe, or if it was largely confined to the noble courts desperate to protect bloodlines. But for you tonight, it feels all too real. Your husband rises, crosses to the door, and slides home the iron bolt. It does little to muffle the world outside. You can almost feel the weight of their stares through the timber. The expectation is palpable proof, must be shown. A sheet, a stain, a symbol that the alliance is truly sealed. Fun fringe tidbit in certain regions. A priest or elder might bless the bed, sprinkle holy water, or even stay to witness the start of the union, offering prayers, as though sanctifying a battle rather than a bond. You shift on the bed, trying to sink into the mattress, as if it could swallow you whole. The coarse linen scrapes against your skin, the straw-stuffed mattress crackles beneath you. You long for invisibility, but here you are, a bride, a duty, a spectacle. He returns, sits beside you once more. There's a heaviness in his movements now, as if he too feels the eyes pressing through the walls. His hand trembles as it finds yours again. Is it dread pity or simply the weight of expectation? You can't tell, and you're too afraid to look up. The bed creaks ominously as you shift closer. Outside the door, the murmurs quiet as if they're leaning in. You wonder, with a bitter laugh in your mind, whether they'll applaud when it's done. And so you steel yourself caught between duty and despair as the audience waits for your curtain to rise. The chamber is stifling now, though the night air beyond the small window is cool. Your breath comes shallow as you realize you're not alone, not truly. Just beyond that heavy wooden door, the household waits, listening, judging. You catch faint murmurs, the creak of floorboards, someone's suppressed chuckle. The reality hits hard. Your most private moment is in truth a public spectacle. Historians still argue whether the practice of witnessing or verifying consummation was universal across medieval Europe, or if it was largely confined to the noble courts, desperate to protect bloodlines. But for you tonight, it feels all too real. Your husband rises, crosses to the door, and slides home the iron bolt. It does little to muffle the world outside. You can almost feel the weight of their stares through the timber. The expectation is palpable proof must be shown. A sheet, a stain, a symbol that the alliance is truly sealed. Fun fringe tidbit in certain regions. A priest or elder might bless the bed. Sprinkle holy water, or even stay to witness the start of the union offering prayers, as though sanctifying a battle rather than a bond. You shift on the bed, trying to sink into the mattress, as if it could swallow you whole. The coarse linen scrapes against your skin, the straw-stuffed mattress crackles beneath you. You long for invisibility, but here you are, a bride, a duty, a spectacle. He returns, sits beside you once more. There's a heaviness in his movements now, as if he too feels the eyes pressing through the walls. His hand trembles as it finds yours again. Is it dread pity or simply the weight of expectation? You can't tell, and you're too afraid to look up. The bed creaks ominously as you shift closer. Outside the door, the murmurs quiet, as if they're leaning in. You wonder with a bitter laugh in your mind whether they'll applaud when it's done. And so you steel yourself, caught between duty and despair, as the audience waits for your curtain to rise. Word count 165. Awaiting continue. Section 4. The candles flame, gutters low, casting your shared shadows across the cold, uneven walls. The bed beneath you groans with each shift, its old wood as much a participant in this night as either of you. And that bed, massive, ornately carved, built to last generations, is anything but comforting. It feels more like a stage one where you are both reluctant players, your roles scripted by generations of tradition and necessity. You glance at it at the sheets stark against the dark room, the heavy headboard crowned with symbols of your family's crest, as if even your ancestors are watching. The mattress, stuffed with straw and wool, pricks your skin through the thin linen. The pillows, lumpy and flat, offer no solace. This is not a place of rest or tenderness. It is a site of duty, a stage for proof. Historians still argue whether medieval couples ever found privacy on these nights, or whether the entire event was more ritual than intimate act. Tonight it feels like ritual, every glance, every breath choreographed by forces beyond your control. Your husband shifts beside you. The air between you crackles with tension. You don't know what to say. Does he? The silence grows thick, oppressive. Somewhere outside, an owl calls its cry, eerie and mournful, like a warning. Fun fringe tidbit. In some noble households, it was common to gift newlyweds with charms or tokens to place beneath the bed or pillow wards against evil spirits, or more likely anxious gestures to encourage fertility. You wonder if your mother tucked one beneath the mattress when you weren't looking. The chamber's cold creeps up through the stones, through the mattress, into your bones. The bed groans again as you shift as he moves closer. You brace for the next act, knowing that this bed is no sanctuary tonight. It is a spotlight, and your center stage. The room feels smaller now, the heavy walls closing in as the candle burns lower. The air is thick with the mingled scents of tallow straw and the faint tang of sweat and wine. You sit rigid, every nerve on edge, because this is the moment older women warned you about in hushed tones when no men were near. You remember their words passed down like a grim inheritance. It will hurt. Endure it. Pray for quickness. Think of the children you must bear. Their warnings swirl in your mind now, blending with your own fear. Historians still argue whether medieval women were truly as ignorant of their bodies and the act itself as legend suggests, or if such stories were exaggerated by later generations romanticizing or demonizing the era. But here you are, frightened, uncertain, and bracing for pain. You wonder whether your mother, your aunts, your sisters, before you felt this same dread, this same hollow ache in their chest. Fun fringe tidbit in some places. Brides were fed strange concoctions, herbs or honeyed wine meant to ease the first night's ordeal, or at least dull the senses. You weren't so lucky. The only wine you tasted was at the feast, and it did nothing to quiet your racing heart. Your husband shifts again, hesitant. Is he nervous too? His hand finds yours, warm but unsure. The moment stretches tense and silent. The bed creaks beneath you, both loud in the quiet night. You stare at the ceiling beams, wishing you could float up into them, become part of the would escape this duty. Outside, the world sleeps. Inside, the night's ordeal begins a mix of duty, dread, and superstition that binds you both more tightly than any wedding band. The candle flickers low, its glow casting long, jagged shadows on the ancient stones, as if the very walls lean in to judge. But what truly looms over you tonight isn't just duty or the stranger beside you. It's the voice of the church echoing in your head with every breath. From childhood, you've been taught that this night is sacred but dangerous. That to submit is holy, that to resist is sin. You try to recall the priest's words at your wedding mass, let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled. The words sounded grand then, but now they feel like chains tightening around your spirit. Historians still argue whether the medieval church's teachings about sex within marriage were as oppressive as later writers made them out to be, or if there was more nuance lost to time. But lying here, heart pounding, the weight of sin and salvation feels very real. Your husband seems caught in the same web. His hand hesitates on your arm, as if unsure whether he's fulfilling a divine purpose or teetering at the edge of damnation. The line between piety and pleasure, between duty and desire, is razor thin tonight. Fun fringe tidbit: some couples received detailed advice from confessors on how, when, and even where marital relations were acceptable with certain holy days, and positions considered more godly than others. Imagine trying to focus with that list running through your mind. The room is silent, but for your breathing, the creak of the bed, the soft drip of melted tallow onto the floor. You close your eyes and murmur a prayer, not for pleasure, not for love, but simply to survive this night with your soul intact. The candle sputters its tiny flame, shrinking as if even it wishes to retreat from this room. But the true source of heat now is the gaze you feel, not from your husband, not from the heavens above, but from the woman whose eyes have been on you all day, your mother-in-law. You can sense her presence even behind thick stone walls. She is the keeper of this household's honor, and tonight she guards it like a hawk. It was her who oversaw the laying of the bridal bed, who directed the maids in preparing the chamber, who gave you that thin, tight smile as the door closed. Historians still argue whether the authority of the medieval mother-in-law was truly as formidable as popular lore suggests, or if we've projected modern mother-in-law jokes backward onto history. But lying here, you're convinced no queen ever ruled her domain with such iron will. Every creak of the floorboards beyond the door makes you stiffen. Is she pacing, listening, already preparing the household for the display of the bridal sheet at dawn, her pride, her legacy depends on your success tonight, and you feel that pressure in your bones. Fun fringe tidbit in some regions. The mother-in-law was tasked with inspecting the bridal sheet herself, ensuring no trickery was at play before announcing the proof of consummation to the waiting kin. You'd give anything to spare yourself that particular indignity. Your husband, too, seems weighed down by her invisible presence. His movements are hesitant, awkward, as if she's peering over his shoulder. Between duty, fear, and that ever-watchful eye, you wonder how anyone found joy on such a night. The room feels colder now, though your skin burns with anxiety. The bed is not just yours. It belongs to her legacy, her pride, and tonight you sleep beneath her shadow. Dawn's pale light begins to creep through the narrow window, casting long bars across the floor. You've barely slept, if at all. Every creak of the bed felt like a drumbeat in the silent night. Every breath a reminder of the duty you were forced to fulfill. And now the moment you've dreaded most arrives. The bridal sheet. That coarse linen scratchy against your skin all night will soon become public evidence of your obedience and your husband's success, the proof everyone is waiting for. You can already hear movement beyond the door, servants stirring, the murmur of voices, perhaps the mother-in-law's firm commands. Historians still argue whether the presentation of the sheet was truly a widespread custom, or whether it became mythologized later, a symbol of control and intrusion. But here and now it feels all too real. Fun fringe. Tidbit in some places, if no blood was shown, families resorted to strange remedies, pricking a finger to stain the sheet, or other small deceits, all to protect honor. You wonder if anyone would dare such a risk in your household, where pride seems as sacred as faith. Your husband rises first, expression grim. He gathers the sheet with care, folding it just so, as if it's a holy relic. The weight of that cloth feels heavier than stone. You watch him walk to the door, unbolt it, and step out into the expectant hush. You lie back, exhausted, numb. The chamber once so oppressive now feels empty. But outside, the judgment begins, the sheet displayed. The whispers started, the family honor sealed or shattered in an instant. And you lie there knowing that what mattered most last night was never your heart or even your body, but that sheet now held high for all to see. The murmur beyond the door swells like a tide of voices crashing against the walls of your chamber. The bridal sheet is out there now, its folds spread, its marks or lack of them scrutinized by eager eyes. Every whisper seems to carry your name, every low chuckle or sigh a verdict passed in the court of gossip. You rise slowly, your body heavy with fatigue and dread, and move to the window. The courtyard below is stirring to life. Servants, kin, and curious hangers-on steal glances toward the doorway where your husband stands, holding that cursed linen. You catch your mother-in-law's sharp gaze as she examines it, lips pursed, nodding ever so slightly. Whether in approval or disappointment, you can't tell. Historians still argue whether these public proofs of consummation carried real legal weight, or whether they were more about spectacle rituals to satisfy the hunger of onlookers for a tale to tell. But here now, you feel the power of that spectacle like a noose around your neck. Fun fringe tidbit in some towns, failure to produce a stained sheet could trigger annulment proceedings or hefty fines paid by the bride's family, as if humiliation weren't punishment enough. As you turn from the window, you know the story of your night will ripple through the village before noon. Some will pity, some will sneer, some will simply relish the drama. and tomorrow it will be old news replaced by fresh gossip. But for you, the sting will linger. You sit on the edge of the bed, hands in your lap, waiting for your husband's return. The gossip mill has begun its work, grinding your name fine, feeding on your private pain. And so the next chapter of your married life begins not in peace, but under the unblinking eye of the world beyond your door. The courtyard slowly empties, but the echoes of whispered judgments seem to cling to the air like smoke after a fire. You pull the shutters closed, seeking a small shield against the world's gaze, though you know it offers little real protection. Now begins the waiting, the anxious counting of moons, of missed courses, of hopeful or fearful signs that a child has been conceived. You sit in the growing quiet hands folded over your belly, as if you could will a future into being. Every glance from your husband, from the household, seems to rest there too, as if your worth has collapsed into this single function. Historians still argue whether the pressure on medieval women to bear heirs was as unrelenting for commoners as for noble families, or if the weight fell most heavily on those whose wombs were tied to wealth and land. Fun fringe tidbit, some midwives and older women swore by charms, herbs tucked under pillows, amulets worn beneath gowns, or whispered prayers said at dawn to help quicken the womb. You suspect several such tokens are hidden in your chamber, now placed by well-meaning hands. The days ahead will be filled with subtle inspections, a mother-in-law's too sharp gaze, a maid's knowing smirk, a priest's blessing offered with just a trace of extra fervor. Your body will no longer belong to you, not fully. It will be watched, measured, discussed in hushed tones behind closed doors. You lean back against the cool stone wall, the weight of expectation settling deeper. The waiting womb is not a quiet thing. It hums with tension, with hope, with fear. And already it begins to shape the life you must now live. The days slip into weeks, and with them, the weight of your new reality presses heavier. At first, your husband's manner was cautious, perhaps even kind in its stiffness, but now impatience creeps in at the edges. When he enters your chamber at night, the air is thick with expectation, the unspoken demand that you produce what the world waits for. You've heard the stories whispered among other women. What happens when a husband's temper runs thin, when frustration curdles into cruelty. A wife's body, under both law and custom, belongs to her husband. His rights are broad, your protections few. Historians still argue whether the law was enforced as harshly as it was written, or whether community ties sometimes softened its blow. But lying awake at night, you don't find much comfort in the thought. Fun fringe tidbit in some places, wives sought protection through tokens of Saint Margaret, patron of childbirth, and women in peril, hoping her image might shield them from harm both in labor and in life. You now keep a small carved figure beneath your pillow, fingers brushing it in the dark like a talisman. Each morning you rise with bruises invisible to the eye. The bruises left by fear, by pressure, by the weight of a role you never asked for. Each night you brace yourself, hoping for gentleness, but steeling for what may come. And outside the chamber, the world continues oblivious to your silent battles. Your body is no longer your own. It is a vessel, a field of contest, a battleground. And you tread carefully, knowing how easily the tides can turn if your womb remains empty too long. The weeks turn to months, and still the world watches, counting the days, waiting for signs. But tonight, as you sit by the small window and watch the moon rise, you think about what it means when the man beside you isn't cruel. When he tries to be gentle, patient, even kind, yet the weight on your shoulders doesn't lift. Your husband's touch is softer than most his words careful. He asks after your comfort, offers small gifts, a carved comb, a length of ribbon, a slice of fruit brought from market. And still each night carries the same duty, the same expectation. Because kindness doesn't change the rules of this world. A kind man still requires heirs. Historians still argue whether medieval women with gentle husbands truly felt less trapped, or whether the unyielding structure of marriage and duty made kindness a small balm on an unchanging wound. You lean toward the latter tonight. Fun fringe tidbit in some regions, couples drank fertility potions mixed from honey herbs, and oddly enough, ground antlers, believing it would inspire nature's cooperation. You've choked down your share of bitter brews, by now offered with hopeful smiles by eager hands. Your kind husband sleeps beside you, his breathing slow and steady. But sleep eludes you. The endless cycle of trying, hoping, waiting, it wearies the spirit. Even kindness cannot break those chains. The moon's pale light spills across the floor, and you wonder if perhaps it's watching you too. If its steady gaze sees the cost of every night, whether filled with cruelty or care. And so you close your eyes, ready to face another day where love, kindness, or duty, it all leads to the same place, the waiting womb. The seasons turn as they always do, and your chamber changes with them from the draft in winter, the stifling heat in summer, but the weight upon your body remains constant. The waiting ends not with relief, but with the next trial pregnancy, and with it comes a new kind of dread. Your belly swells, your back aches, and the village midwife nods approvingly, murmuring blessings. But you know the truth. This is no guarantee of joy. Each pregnancy is a gamble, each birth a crossing over dangerous waters. Historians still argue whether the maternal mortality rate was as catastrophic as often described, or if modern fears have exaggerated it. But in your bones, in your heart, you know the risks are real enough. Fun fringe tidbit, some believe tying certain stones or charms around the waist during labor would ease the birth. You wear yours now, a smooth bit of amber strung on leather, gifted by an aunt who swore by its power. You endure. You bear down through labors that leave you raw, through miscarriages that steal your breath and leave you hollow, through endless nights of feeding and rocking and praying over tiny fevered bodies. The bed that once was stage for your wedding night becomes a battleground of its own, a place where you bleed, where you mourn, where you cling to life and give life again and again. Each birth etches a new line into your face, each loss another shadow in your eyes. And yet the expectation never eases. Another child, another hope, another peril. The body you once wished to hide behind veils is no longer your own. It is a vessel, and the cost of that first fateful night continues to mount. The nights grow long, and with them the shadows in your mind. Between the cries of infants, the murmur of prayers, and the creak of the old bed, you hear the other voices, the legends, the warnings, the superstitions whispered by firelight. Older women speak of spirits who steal newborns, of curses laid by jealous hearts of charms to hang over cradles and herbs to burn beneath the bed. You catch yourself muttering these old rhymes, clutching small tokens, as if they might shield you and your children from fate's cruelty. Historians still argue whether these beliefs truly shaped daily choices, or whether they were just desperate gestures in a world without control. But to you, they are woven into survival. Fun fringe tidbit in some places, mothers would sprinkle salt in a baby's first bath, or sew tiny bells into swaddling clothes to ward off evil. Your mother-in-law left such a bell at your bedside after your firstborn's cry filled the chamber. You kept it tucked in a small wooden box, as if the sound might still guard your family. You lie awake now, staring at the dark beams above the weight of those stories pressing as heavy as any duty. Each creak of the floorboards becomes a warning. Each gust of wind a sign. And you wonder if the superstitions are true, whether any charm is strong enough to protect what you love in a world so harsh. Your wedding night feels far away now, but its echoes haunt each sleepless hour. The legends linger, and so does the fear. The years have passed, though you feel them more in your bones than on the calendar. The chamber that once witnessed your dread now holds quieter moments, nights, where the only sound is the wind through the shutters, or the soft breathing of a child asleep at your side. But peace is fragile. Even now, your place remains tethered to expectation. You are no longer the frightened bride of that first night, yet the pressures of marriage and motherhood never truly ease. Historians still argue whether women who survived childbirth and fulfilled their duties found real authority within the household, or remained bound to the will of others. You suspect the answer lies somewhere in between small victories claimed in private moments, but always within the walls built by others. Fun fringe tidbit. In some parts of Europe, a woman who bore many healthy children might earn the informal title of matron or good wife, a mark of respect that softened but did not erase the strictures of her world. You hear the maids use such words about you now, and the sound is bittersweet. Your nights are quieter, but never empty. Each creak of the old bed recalls that first dreadful evening. Each sigh of the wind through the stones reminds you of all you have endured. And when you wake from uneasy dreams, you sometimes think you hear the faint echoes of laughter from that long-ago feast, the shuffle of feet outside the chamber door, waiting for proof. And so as you close your eyes tonight, you carry with you all those nights, the fear, the duty, the loss, the fragile joys. They are threads in the tapestry of your life, woven tight, unbreakable. Word count 165. And now let's let that story drift into the soft stillness of night. The candle has long burned out, and only the gentle hush of the wind remains. The weight of the chamber fades, the walls soften into shadows, and the hard edges of duty, fear, and memory blur at last. Imagine just for a moment that the world outside your door has fallen silent, not in judgment, but in peace. The heavy bed, once a stage for so much, becomes just a place to rest. The old stones no longer press in. They cradle you gently, holding you safe in their quiet strength. Breathe slow and easy now. Feel the cool air of dawn just beginning to stir soft against your skin. Let the noise of the world fall away. Let the stories of long ago slip into dream, where they can no longer weigh you down. You've traveled far tonight through shadow and candlelight, and now it's time to rest. Sleep well. Sweet dreams. End of script. Sweet dreams.